Greetings viewers, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are back working on the 2005 STi. This is the 180,000 mile survivor car. Going to be going over a few repairs today, hopefully. It's lunch break right now and everybody's out of the shop, so hopefully I'll have peace and quiet to film really quickly. Hopefully I'll get done with all this. I'm pretty sure I won't, but we'll get as far as we can get. We're going to be doing rear brakes on this car. The rear Brembos are down to next to nothing on their pads, and the rotors are showing a little bit of a wear lip on the edge. So I'm pretty sure we've got enough rotor left to have them sent off and be turned. I'm going to put some new pads on the rear. Fronts are about 50% life left, so we're good on that. The front left ball joint is bad in this car. It is busted and loose. So we're going to be putting a new ball joint on the left front corner. And the third thing we'll be doing is rebuilding, resealing the power steering pump. That said, we'll go ahead and get the rear wheels off the car as well as the driver front wheel so we can get ready to do the ball joint and the brakes. All right guys, hopefully I'll be able to show you this without getting in the way, but it is kind of cramped quarters here. Trying to get the camera and myself in here without blocking the camera. So STi Brembos, really easy to get your pads out. You have a little cotter pin here and a little cotter pin here. What we're going to do is pull those out. Just like so. Just grabbing them with a little pick, pulling them out. So you get your little cotter pins out of the way. Once you've got your little cotter pins out of the way, there are two rods that go through. You might want to grab the end gently with a pair of pliers and rock it back and forth as you slide it. And all you got to do is pull that pin out. There's one at the top, one at the bottom. Be careful, this plate is under spring tension by those pins. So you get those pulled out. Pull your plate up. Now that's out of the way. Just very gently now, I'm going to take, not to mar up the finish on the calipers or the paint, just squeeze just a hair on the pad just to retract that piston, give us a little slack, and your brake pads pull right out. As you see, these pads are super shot, no life nearly left on them. I have to do a little squeeze again. There we go, and pad slides right out. Easy peasy. All right, so now we need to get the caliper off. There's two bolts back here that mount the caliper to the caliper bracket. Actually, there's no bracket. I think it's a 17 mil back here. Remove this bracket. And remove the caliper and all the grossness. And we're going to go set this caliper over here. I'm going to support it with a hook. Never let your brake caliper dangle by the brake hose. You do not want to put pressure on your brake line. So Now we need to knock our rotor off. Seems it's stuck on here from rust. So we can do two ways to get this off. There are two threaded holes here that you can use to pull the rotor off, or you can just beat it with a hammer. So we're probably going to beat it with a hammer. Before you go to try to knock this thing off and fight it, make sure your parking brake's off. If your parking brake's on, you're going to have a hard time getting that rotor off. Sometimes brute force is not the best method. Now we'll simply repeat the process on the passenger side of the vehicle, and we will have these sent off and turned. All right, so while we're waiting for the rotors to be turned, we're going to go ahead and take some brake parts cleaner and clean up our caliper. Get all that nasty brake dust off of there, get any dried, cruddy caliper lubricant. That all cleaned up, shined up. A little hard to do one-handed with the camera in the way, but you get the gist of it. Now we need to go ahead and reset our caliper for our new pads. Always make sure before you do this that you have the cap off of the brake fluid reservoir, or at least cracked, depending on how worn the brake pads are. When you go to compress these calipers back in and reset them, you may overflow the reservoir, so just keep an eye on your brake fluid level as you do this. So all this tool does is, as I turn this, these two plates open up and force the calipers back reset, forces the brake fluid out of the caliper back into the reservoir. All right, now our caliper is all cleaned up. Our pistons are reset, ready to bolt back on and put our new pads in once we get our rotors back. All right, now that we've got our brake rotors back from being turned, we're going to take our hub buddy, clean up the hub a little bit. Give us a nice, smooth, rust-free surface to mount our rotor to. We're going to take brake parts cleaner, clean up both sides of our rotor, make sure there's no debris. And that they're nice and clean, no contaminants. Now we've got our rotor mounted up and flush. We'll go ahead, take the hub buddy again. clean up that mounting surface. All right, so now we'll go ahead and mount the caliper back onto the backing plate here. Now that we've got the caliper bolts snug, we'll go back and torque these to spec, which is 65 Newton meters. All right, we're now ready to install the new pads. I'm going to take a little bit of brake silicone, brake caliper grease, and apply it to the backing plate where the pad contacts the caliper piston. And also put a little bit on the sides of the pad where it rubs against the caliper body. Let me just take it and slide it in. Lube up our next pad and do the same. Just drop it in like so. Now we take our brake pad pins, these little guys, they're kind of corroded, so we're going to take them to the bench grinder and hit them with the wire wheel. Now our pins are nice and shiny. Go ahead and install them. Sliding them through the holes in the top of the pads. We're going to go ahead and put our plate back on top here and push down the tab and have it go underneath the pin as it was before. And just guide your pins till they're all the way through the caliper body. Once they are through the caliper body and seated, you're going to look through the back here and line up your holes. And you're going to reinstall your little cotter pins to hold your pins in place. You can't see your hole in your pin, just grab it with a pair of pliers and turn it until you can see the hole. And we're all set. On our rear brakes, we'll just do the exact same procedure again on the other side of the vehicle.